It's starting little by little and live. Okay. Hello, Leather Boots. I can see you on the Instagram. Gotta make sure I talk into this microphone. Oh, hey, Mandy. Thank you for joining. And have a viewer in the Facebook. So just going to give everyone a few minutes to show up before we get rolling on this book launch. Now, while everyone's jumping in, I've actually got two cameras here. I got Instagram here, and then I've got the laptop here, which has Facebook. So that's how we're doing it. Two live streams. Oh, hey, Chris. Thanks for joining on the Facebook. So we got a few on Instagram, a few on Facebook. Give it a couple minutes, and we'll get rolling on this book. For anyone who's in Vancouver or in British Columbia, it's actually quite nice. For those that are in Alberta, I'm not sure what the weather's like, but um, it's nice here. Hey, Rick, thanks for joining. Oh, and then there's Nadia. Thank you for joining on Instagram. Christy on Facebook. Ah, Kira, my sister, on Facebook. Awesome. Give it another minute. Oh, Rick says Alberta has fantastic weather. That's good. Canada's warming up all around. Hey, and Charles is on Facebook. Almost shorts weather. Jeez. That's something. Yeah, it was 15 degrees Celsius here in Vancouver. Mandy on Instagram says plus 10. That's actually quite impressive for January, Alberta. Oh, and Tyler has joined. Oh, and a few more people. Hey, Simon. Okay. I think we'll get rolling here. 3 minutes after 6 p.m. Pacific Standard and 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Don't want to take up your whole evening. This is to celebrate the launch of a brand new novel. Let's get some light happening. See my face better? Yeah, brand new novel, which is World Mother Ascension, the Ash-born novel. Now, this has two formats. It has both ebook and print. So the ebook came out as a newsletter exclusive, which you can actually download now. It is yeah, available. Should be in the comments on the Facebook, or if you're on the Instagram, should just be right on the links in the bio. And yeah, it's a newsletter exclusive, so you sign up and you get it right away. I can drop it in again and remind people as well. As soon as you do the double opt-in, like most newsletters, you'll get the book plus two more, and we'll get into all of that. But yeah, first, what is World Mother Ascension? That is the essentially standalone novel, so you don't have to read any of my other work. If you do, and you have, then you get all sorts of extra perks and neat things, extra mythos, and exciting backstories regarding the macrocosm. The World Mother Ascension is a dark fantasy thriller that takes place in modern times that is about Synarion, the main character here that we have on the cover, who is a nymph. Now, they are basically balancers of Mother Nature, I guess environmentalists in terms of today's standards, but they did it way, way before. And in the old world ended up collapsing because his people failed. So he has this kind of jadedness on his shoulder while being the last of his people trying to maintain balance throughout the world. So his resources are quite limited, and he doesn't really have much to do other than like trying to do it all on his own with a little bit of money. Oh, nice, Christy. You already got it. Glad to hear. Yeah, so that's basically the summary of the character Synarion. He's the protagonist, and throughout this book, he unravels a blood cult's plan to summon Mother Nature's wrathful twin sister, known as the World Mother. Now, the World Mother believed the Earth was hers. I won't give you too many spoilers, but she is going to go and fight for the planet, and Cenarion has to stop the World Mother before she succeeds. And to make things worse, the Queen of Vampires is involved because it's a blood cult, and there's vampiric plants, there's vampires. It's actually the second time I've written about vampires. First time was in a short story, but this expands on that short story quite a bit with the character Queen Valtoris. She was quite actually a fun character to write about because she has such a complex background and a interesting relationship with Synarion, the Balancer. That is generally the gist of the book. It came about because, if you didn't know, most of all my work falls under the collective macrocosm. I've been working towards this for, geez, basically since I've started writing way back as a little kid, and it's continued to grow throughout there from my first release with Reality, and then I made a horror novel called Seed Me. Some of you may be familiar with that. That came out back in 2016, which follows a blood cult of vampiric plants. So the events of the World Mother actually happened simultaneously with the events from Seed Me. Oh, hey, I got Geeky Stitch there. How you doing? Good to see you. It's been a while. That's Instagram. And yeah, so yeah, the events of World Mother take place at the same time as Seed Me. So it created a fun story because there's two novels that happen parallel with two different protagonists and sharing the same villain. Both work as standalone stories, but one gives you a different perspective. One is a creature feature horror, and the other is a dark fantasy thriller with a mystery component. And while I was working on the macrocosm, writing these novels, you had my Mental Damnation series, which was my first, and then the Seed Me novel. If you've read Seed Me, it leaves things in a very interesting situation. No spoilers, but it leaves some we'll call it problems. Yes, problems that needed to be solved because the universe continues on, but it was such a dramatic ending in Seed Me. Um, I needed to kind of elaborate on how things unraveled post book. And that kind of birthed World Mother Ascension, is explaining what happened with the Blood Cult, the World Mother, and the world, for that matter. And Cenarion seemed like a good fit because he's a balancer, basically an environmentalist, and that's how this book came to be. So that's where we're at today. And yeah, it became a newsletter exclusive because that's something I've always wanted to do way back since I've started, is offer a little more exclusive stuff to super fans that are signed up and wanting to follow the macrocosm. And none of the books quite worked as being purely exclusive because I'm a mix of published and self-published, so always experimenting and trying different launches. And this book just happened to line up really well. It came together fast. Started it in 2021, ignored it for a good year, and then went back to it in 2023. So everything just kind of lined up really well, and it's a great introduction to my work, but also the mythos gives existing fans so many things to enjoy. So I'm going to read a short intro, which is the prologue, and then we'll talk a little bit about the artwork and how it connects to some of the other books, and I'll read a little bit of chapter one, and then we'll jump into a Q&A. But yeah, definitely drop in any comments you have in the chat here. And Mandy on Instagram says, "Sounds wonderful. Thank you." Yeah, environmental stuff is has always been a big interest of mine, and I have major respect for Mother Nature and all the joys and frights that the wild brings. And that's kind of why it ultimately seemed natural that I ended up writing a character who is an environmentalist and the dangers of not taking care of the planet. So, prologue. Prologue. Tenebrious. Do you remember when I first found you? Yes. Was it what you hoped for? No. Memories matter little, for history repeats in the present. Though we attempt to make ourselves better than the former, we need rules and expertise as guidance. This is why Synarion refused to let go of his past, despite the sea-kissed ashes smudged on his face and hands, reminding him he was the last. Metallic flavor ran along his taste buds. It was his own blood, which complemented the sting from the relentless sun sizzling his back as it grazed the horizon. The waves splashed against his flesh, sliding into the sand and soaking his front. His eyes flickered and questioned, why? No one would answer this. He could replay the events that led him to these mysterious shores, reminding himself that it was not his fault the balancers of the grove didn't foresee the catastrophe. In the end, how would obsessive analysis aid his duty? It wouldn't. He was weak. The shaking arms proved it as he attempted to push himself up. The beach could belong to any continent. The air tasted staler. Unlike the vibrant green forests and broad mountains he knew, the rocks further inland, past the first sand dune, were saturated, pink and tan. This place was new, and that didn't mean he could let go what he was, a balancer. A being on a camel trotted over the hill 40 paces from him under the purple and red sky. Synarion stood, wobbling in the process. A small trunk rested by his side. The documents survived. Some proof of his past would live on. He pushed his jaw-length champagne blonde hair from his face, tucking it behind his long, pointed ears. Next was brushing the sand from his torn clothes, awaiting the arrival of the hooded figure. Though a desert creature, the camel was armored. The plating shielded his eyes, forehead, neck, and upper thighs from the sun. Drapes of blood-red and emerald-rich silk fabric ran to its knees, complementing the dual-colored sash of its rider under the pearl cloak. This stranger belonged to some legion beyond Synarion's knowledge. He felt inept within Mother Nature's world. He served her, protected her, and thought he understood what she was. The loss of his home in this strange new land proved her mysterious nature had far more to offer than he could have imagined. The rider brought the camel to a stop 10 paces away. The face was difficult to see due to the scarf and metal goggles on their face. Small slits let the newcomer gaze into Synarion's violet eyes. They had wrapped layers of tan and white clothing tightly around their entire form, covering them from head to toe. The intriguing characteristic was the dusted pendant attached to a chain around their neck. Its circular form contained a naked woman with flaming eyes. Vines draped from her scalp, like hair, and over her breasts. Her bark-covered hands and feet pressed against the rim, covered in leaves. The mini-sculpture's body stood in front of a pentagram, made of holes cut into the round petals of a flower. "The sun is dangerous," they said, with a voice coated in honey and ice, 2 features Synarion wouldn't relate to here. "Where am I?" Synarion asked, throat coarse. "Nowhere near your collapsed Zengalg, nymph." Their gaze moved to the ocean, examining the rocks and the sand. "The shore is moving inward. Where are we?" The stranger didn't answer. They stared. It wasn't a usual look, even while being faceless. The newcomer sucked Synarion's vision in, the darkening world around blurred, homing in on whoever this was. Inside the metal slits was a glimmer of jade eyes. They looked past his own and pierced his psyche, pushing into his memories of stone temples crumbling due to the cracking earth. The water flooded into elevated forests at the base of mountains. They, too, tumbled to the violent tides, sending mass avalanches toward the countless screaming souls begging for a savior. Their cries failed to be answered. The sentient and the beast alike failed to escape. Death. So much death. Further, the hypnotic eyes moved past the recent terrors, beyond his balancer duties and into who he was, Synarion, a balancer, the nymph, born and raised to protect Mother Nature. Simple. Why would there be a need for anything else? Their host was the most important thing, and his humble sacrifice was what mattered. This psychic connection was a two-way channel. He could glimpse into the stranger. Hers, wasn't as clear. Not an earth-giving being. Not at all. Foreign. The energy radiating from her was far darker, containing the power he hadn't encountered. It had the depth of 1,000 lives intertwined with endless youth. Despite the magnetizing grab, it made his gut want to dig itself into the ground. The sun slipped past the horizon, and she lowered her scarf, exposing the milk skin. Peeking past the lush apple lips were hints of canine fangs, far too long to be human or nymph. His trance ended with the commanding word, "Come." The stranger pulled the leather rope attached to the camel's head, turning east. He grabbed the trunk containing his past with both hands and followed, dragging his bare feet in the scorching sand. Was it what you wished for? No. I wish it were. And that is the prologue to World Mother Ascension. So Synarion and Valturis actually meet for the first time on those shores that he knows nothing about. And it works as a prologue because we get the characters when the main story actually takes place in Chapter 1. We'll look at a little bit of Chapter 1 as well. Kind of a fun scene before it completely goes haywire. But before we jump into that, I'd like to just talk a bit about the artwork. So for this cover, I did this one, where in the previous Ashbourne cover, let me grab that. Yeah, the previous cover, I had my good friend and colleague, Lee Nielsen, do this for Ashbourne Book 1. But because this is a newsletter exclusive, I thought I'd tackle this one, which is a digital painting, and turned out quite good. Lee was kind enough, and my friend Nadia, to give me great pointers on making this cover kick way more ass than it was before. So thank you to both of you guys to helping me with the cover and keeping continuity throughout both books. Kind of like Ashbourne, they also have interior artwork, so the stories divided into 3 acts, which you can find both in the ebook and the print one, which was a fun challenge, kind of marrying the 2 books and working on a digital painting, a medium that I don't work on too often. Most of my work ends up being on paper or with photo collage and then scanning it back into the computer to apply digital processing, like with contrast and color correction. Physical mediums are generally more what I prefer, but it was fun to change it up and work purely in the digital realm. Got to play and experiment a little bit more. But yeah, so that's a good lead into Ashbourne 1. So you don't need to read this if you want to check out World Mother Ascension, but it does lead into that book. And if you do sign up to the newsletter to grab World Mother Ascension, you do get 2 other books. I decided to do an introduction collection because my very first book, Reality, came out in 2012. So if you do sign up, you get both of these in ebook format. CD, now called Cultivate, and Reality. All 3 of these work really, really good as an introduction to the whole macrocosm. They're separate stories, so you get lots to read, and 2 of them are part of the series. So, yeah, you'll be busy for a while. Now, we'll read a little bit of Chapter 1, a little snippet. And, thank you for the comments. Just going to look. Oh, thank you. Yeah, glad you guys enjoy it. Yeah. And, yeah, there's Lots more in the actual book, so definitely check out those pieces of art. Yeah, so let's jump into chapter one, and then if there's any questions. Chapter 1. More Than Blood. Day 1. Thursday. The living in Mother Nature's garden isn't different from the thousands of bacteria required on and in one's body. The difference is that Earth's most intelligent bacteria attempt to destroy its host. If more souls understood her wrath as Synarion did, they wouldn't need balancers. Maintaining order took him to the darkest depths of the world. For example, he held a left arm, severed at the elbow, covered in puncture holes forming rings running along the arm to the palm. He was no fool, and wore rubber gloves, knowing how practical human forensics were. The limb was one piece of a hacked body that belonged to a man whose head lay sideways, wet in blood. It, too, had puncture hole rings covering its form. The formations were on an angle, with one piercing through the eyeball. Rings wrapped around the legs, torso, and right arm, causing blood to drizzle from each new pit in the flesh. Synarion dropped the arm in the tub and stood, taking the rubber glove off and stuffing it into his pocket. What a mess, he thought, while walking across the creaking hardwood floor and into the kitchen. A balancer must stomach the most grotesque Mother Nature had to offer to be rewarded with the most beautiful. He hadn't seen the latter in centuries. Balancing, on occasion, also meant launching silver throwing stars into a hand, keeping it pinned to an old, warped desk. Synarion did that on arrival, making the tenant wheeze in this filth and dust-covered studio apartment's kitchen. It is not the scenario you would imagine an ancient protector of the world to be in. Life's non-linear path is ever winding. The balding man in front of him grunted and spat curses, for the pain overwhelmed his nervous system. His fingers twitched with blood seeping from where the throwing star had shredded through the surface of his pretendineous bands, keeping him married to the table inches away from his Glock. "You cauliflower-eared piece of shit," the man hissed. "Roll one. Look like you belong." Synarion kicked a glass pipe on the tiled ground, walked to the man and snagged the Glock. He examined the weapon, fascinated by the weight and craftsmanship. Guns were not for him, though he was forever curious of man's evolving empire. "These are so barbaric, aren't they?" he said. "Says the psycho using throwing stars," the man groaned. He'd use his other hand to pull the star free if Synarion hadn't beaten it to a purple, red, swollen mess minutes ago. It lay lifeless to his side. "They're cleaner," Synarion said, tucking the Glock under his belt. "Less waste, and if you're capable of aiming, they're silent and don't leave a trace, unlike your dismemberment methods. So brutal." The man bit his lip, face scrunching into a prune. Synarion examined the room, seeing the small unit had little to offer. The cracked ceiling had brown water stains around the openings. A hole-covered mattress rested in one corner. The lamp by the window flickered in inconsistent pulses. Living this type of life illustrated that the man wasn't interested in the finer details, unlike Synarion. For example, the throwing star, speckled in scarlet human fluid, had the balancer's once symbolic icon of a gate covered in vines engraved into it. Above were 4 finger holes, engineered for a second function of close combat. The human, on the other hand, had a lime green fridge coated in mysterious brown splatters, matching the dirty stove. To the right of them was a crumb-infested counter with a bag of black and red seeds. The plant embryos looked familiar. They flooded Synarion with a sinking feeling he hadn't had in a long time. The texture had a cosmic depth, and the red burst with vibrant flame of another world. "What are those?" Synarion asked, pointing to them. "Quit pussyfooting around," the man said. "Pussyfooting?" asked the other. "I haven't heard that in quite some time. A person a good century old used to say that." "Get to the point. You got me." "Yes, I have. A familiar blessed with elongated life at the promise of immortality. In exchange, You perform services for your master, like whatever you did to that poor man in your tub. An unusual request. Like those seeds. A lot of unusual in this space. Synarion placed one black boot on the empty chair beside the man, mastering the classic power stance, and leaned into the human's coffee irises. What did you do to that man? Cut him to pieces. The puncture hole rings? A weird kink. Uh-huh. What are those seeds? You're one weird fuck, aren't you? The man said. His eyes moved side to side, analyzing his victor. They moved past the eyes, unfazed by the brown contact lenses, to the scarred ears. These? Synarion asked, pointing at the bump-covered cartilage. Not one of my preferred choices I've had to make. Yet, I had no other option since you humans have done such a fine job of managing the planet. What the fuck you saying, man? The man grunted as he experienced another wave of pain. What's your name? Doesn't matter. You're not into answering any of my questions. Yeah, well, you got me dead, he said. I'm not the killing type. I will if I must. That there is where I differ from the cat. Metaphors? Ugh, the man rolled his eyes. Okay, no more pussyfooting. We'll get to it. End it. Synarion shook his head. Not my style. You prefer to cripple them, eh? This country has healthcare, doesn't it? Quite progressive. Fuck you. The man spat a thick slime of saliva at him. Most of it landed into his tattered beard, glistening in the blinking light. Oh, I almost forgot, Synarion said. You don't want to go anywhere near the public service. Synarion leaned over the table and tapped the throwing star, causing the man to grind his teeth. Not with your history. Do you want to keep role-playing as a baboon and me as the playful feline, or are you going to tell me who your master is? The man's face dropped, skin turning ice. His gaze narrowed in, brows slanting as if he weren't in pain. No more bullshit, as he requested. He lived in a polluted pig's den and participated in recreational drugs based on that pipe. Yet he was sober, due to Synarion's words. Don't know nothing about what you're saying, he said. I'm sure you don't. That's why you were so keen on going for that Glock of yours moments ago. You came from the window. What'd you expect? A little more decency. I thought you were inviting people in with that open window. Canadians are supposed to be polite. Now, who is your master? I am. Synarion revealed another throwing star, slipping his fingers into the hole to form a small blade. He brought the fine metal to the man's brown shirt and down, peeling through the fabric. The edge poked against the human sweat-glazed torso, and the shirt's fabric flapped open, revealing a golden pendant of a naked woman with fire for eyes. She stood in front of a flower pentagram. Yes, that same iconic flowergram that Synarion first laid eyes on that fateful day on those sandy shores. Synarion leaned away, taking the weapon away from the man's skin. His squinted face said more than words could. The balancer was expecting a pendant of loyalty to their master. Each familiar had one. This pendant, though, was not supposed to be here. It made him question his balancer profession. Had he become so incompetent in his own skills? Where did you get this? Synarion asked, staring at the golden woman's vines for hair. The man glanced around, eyes shifting, breath rate increased. Beads of sweat grew on his scalp, drizzling on his face. Answer me, Synarion sneered. He lunged the blade to the man's throat, poking into the flesh. The hostile nature was not in his character. All it took was one symbol to knock him off equilibrium. He took a deep breath and retreated into his mind, retracing the steps that brought him here. Yes, he caught wind of a bloodsucker in southern British Columbia. Yes, he went to investigate. They had a habit of forgetting their place in nature, which required a balancer's fine touch to keep them in line. Bloodsuckers' origins were more Gothic, following their classic mythos. Yes, bloodsuckers were slang for vampires, not to be mixed with vampires with a Y, your fallen angels. Yes, it was rare to find one so bold in the open, leeching off of people's life force and being deemed a localized serial killer on the Canadian all-media broadcasting channel. Yes, Synarion had to enforce balance. His process was simple and direct. Bloodsuckers, like most old world beings, must hide or follow Rule 1, look like you belong. It maintained order. The investigation of the bloodsucker led Synarion here because most bloodsucker mythology holds true. They like to keep a human familiar around to do their dirty work. They promise these poor saps they'll be converted into vampires if they complete X, Y, and Z. Their quests include luring people into a den, like this place, to be murdered. Unlike the usual bloodsucker scenario, this man didn't have his master's sigil resting on his chest. Instead, a pendant from a long forgotten past. His balancing process was clear. He hadn't seen a bloodsucker and their familiar step out of line from their cliche. This man should have his master's emblem. Answer me, Synarion said, lifting the throwing star under the rope necklace. With a single pull, the blade cut through it, and he snatched the pendant. You're too late, the other whispered. In 4 days, the world mother... World what? The man looked to the window, eyes glimmering, and swallowed a lump of saliva. You're invited in. Shit, Synarion thought. I'll leave it at that. He invited someone into his apartment just as Synarion was asking questions. If you're familiar with classic vampire mythos, you will know what inviting someone into their house means. So that is where we'll leave chapter 1. There's a bit more that you can continue on when you sign up to the newsletter and grab it. Yeah, do it. It's free. Free books are fun. And there's also print on Amazon if you prefer the print copies. Should be on Amazon now, .ca.com and all of that. And that basically concludes the launch of the World Mother Ascension book. Yeah. Oh, look at that. We got a few people showing up. Thank you so much for showing up, Sarah. Oh, got a few others. Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, so that's the whole launch. Any questions? And if not, but definitely, yeah, do download it. The link for Instagram, you'll find it on the bio. If you go to the profile, click that. Yeah, Facebook should be on the event link, or it should just be on the page as well. And yeah. Oh, thank you, Rick. Thank you, Charles. Oh, and Sarah showed up on Facebook. Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, we got a few other names in here on the Instagram. Cool. Yeah, that about half an hour. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. If so do download it. If you get stuck, you can always message me on Facebook or Instagram. Thank you all for joining on this book launch. I'm really glad to share with you all and hope you enjoy the brand new novel. More is coming. Already working on a brand new book. So keep watch for that. Until then, happy reading. All right, guys. Have a good one. Take care.